Great. Let's see if I get this here. All right, a lot of options. I think you can see it coming up. You got it
Yep,
yet?
we got you. Yep, we got
Uh,
you.
okay, super. All right. So first of all, thank you to the association. Thank you, Spencer, for the invitation to come speak with you. I want to make a couple clarifications because I think, I do own a company called Complete EM, but I'm not really here to talk about that product. I'm here to talk about OD Respond, something that sort of came from Complete EM work that we've been doing. It's a free web-based secure incident management system. But I would like to spend maybe a couple minutes sort of letting you know how we got to that, because I think that's of most import to you and the people that you represent. And if Jeff's reaching back for the paintbrush, I'll give him some advance notice. I'm going to mention him in a minute as well, because he's been somewhat instrumental in our thinking on incident management systems. So with that, I'll say I'm a former local, state, and federal emergency manager. I started at FEMA in '92. I spent most of my time at California OES, a lot of that as a recovery manager, acting undersecretary, deputy director, running the EOC basically for a number of years. And I've also spent time as a UOC director. About 10 years ago, I left government and, after a short stint, sort of mainstream consulting, because I was concerned there were like big fundamental shifts that were needed in emergency management work that I couldn't make as a government employee. I found it wasn't satisfying for me to try to do that in a corporate environment. So I created a system called Complete EM that basically helps an emergency manager deal with everything. I don't know, the most contemporary way to say it is left of boom, right until you get to an incident. And we have a great time talking with emergency managers about that. But what in our process of developing that software, Complete EM, and you might think of it just like a box of tools with a dashboard that tells you what your emergency management program is all about, how you can improve it, and then a bunch of tools to get it done. As we were developing that, we identified that most of the 3,140 some odd county and county equivalents in the US didn't have access for one reason or another to an incident management system. And that being precluded from that incident management system really held them back in terms of their ability to respond. And when I talk about or think about getting held back, it's like having a place where a group of people can share a common data set, it's some information, coordinate, collaborate, do those things that they normally do. A touchstone during an incident. There are many organizations at the county level that get passed down accounts from state incident management systems, but we found that most of those accounts are really instrumental only in getting information pushed up to the state, and they don't come with a lot of flexibility for locals to, do their own thing inside the system. And this is where Jeff gets involved. I interviewed Jeff. Jeff was gracious enough to give us about an hour, I think, about almost 8 years ago, on the topic of incident management teams. And some of you might recognize me for what some might think is not being supportive of incident management teams, but let me clarify that. Because I spent so much time in response and I saw that so much unnecessary damage was done because emergency management programs weren't doing their hazard and threat assessments, doing some planning, doing some training, doing some exercises, doing some improvements, that I was concerned that too much of a rush to bring in incident management teams to make all that work go away and make things better was really just a fallacy, and that emergency managers should spend a lot of time focusing on stuff before an incident happens. Jeff, and I think is still probably the person who's has facilitated more incident management team stand-ups than anybody I know, help us make that point that incident management teams are great, especially in places where you have complex multi-jurisdictional incidents, maybe organizations that can't field a full team. But my complementary point to yours as an association is please, folks, don't make a county or an incident management team come to an incident empty. Give them something to work with and not have to make it up for scratch. So with that as the background, and I'll pause for a second. If Jeff wants to say anything or Spencer wants to say anything about it, what I'd love to do in a second is go into this free incident management system we'd like to make available to you, any city, county that wants to use it.
This is Jeff, and no, I'm fine. I'm listening, George.
Okay. All right. So if you haven't been to the site, you can go ahead and register. All you're going to have to do is put in some basic contact information and confirm that the email you're using is in fact your email. Once you get into the system, you're going to have a base map that's this is Google Maps. We made this very, very simple because the price is right. You can see the incidents you've created in the past. You can search for addresses. You can use it basically just like Google Maps. But when you're interested, I got to see if I can close this panel here so I can get to the rest of the navigation. Here we go. If you want to create, when you want to create an incident, you simply pick your incident type. And this is just a pull from our complete EM hazard identification and risk assessment module, right? You pick an incident. I'm sorry?
George, I think we're looking at your second screen. We're seeing like a screensaver with a lake and sand dunes.
Okay. Thanks, Spencer.
Yep.
Is that any better?
There we go. Yep.
It needs to be expanded though, correct?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, there you go. Yep.
All right, better?
There we go. Yep.
All right.
Good stuff.
Let me back up a little bit. Here's what you're going to see when you first log into the system after registering. You're going to see your map centered around the location that you put for your program location when you register. Okay. And really all we're trying to do here is create a virtual workspace for people getting together to work an incident. You start by adding an incident, selecting an incident type, giving it a title, creating an incident start date and time. When you submit that, you'll be able to double click on the map and open up an incident. Okay. Once you open up an incident, you can also reach it here. And once you're inside the incident, you've got a map with an icon that you've dropped from the previous screen on your incident location. You've got on the left-hand side, activity log or ICS 214 area where you can enter in all that information. When you bring in additional people, you can see their logs as well. And if you need to say, download all the logs to maybe support a FEMA public assistance project worksheet claim, something like that, you can do that as well. Okay. When you want to add people to the incident, you simply add staff, enter their email address, assign the role that you want them to play in your EOC, ECC, ICP, whatever you're using. And then here in the notes section, you want to be very explicit about what you want them to do. Stay home and work as plans chief from your kitchen table, come into the EOC. We're going to use the software there, whatever your instructions are. They receive an email. They get an invitation to register with that email, and they are able to come in. Once they come into the incident, you'll see their icons stack up here in the upper right. And when they get colored, that means they've not only registered, but they're logged in. Okay. I'm probably going to step on some toes, but I'm going to do it anyway here with action planning. I have seen a lot of good responses fail for lack of a simpler way to do action planning. So we have created two ways to do it. If folks who are using the system want to create a very simple action plan, they can go to a text editor, enter in priorities, objectives, notes, cautions, whatever they want, and that will stay here in the screen for action to guide action. If there's a plans chief who's doing a more formal action plan, they can upload documents here. And once those documents are uploaded, they can view them and download them here. Okay. Similarly, with sit reps, we can add what I sometimes refer to as sit rep nuggets, little bits of information that really don't constitute a sit rep yet, but we can keep track of them. But then when we're ready to upload a formal sit rep, we can do that here and download and view it here as well. Okay. As these folks you've invited come on board with the incident and you see their icons color up here, you're going to be able to conduct one-to-one or one-to-many messaging with them. So you can have your discussions, with your team here, one-to-one or one-to-many. If you have a message that you want to send to all quickly, and you want everybody to acknowledge receipt, or you want to maybe better ensure that they are receiving the message, you can send a flash message. And what this does is it creates a pop-up on their screen. Maybe it's, the dam just burst, the lunch truck is about to leave, whatever the case may be. And then folks will have to acknowledge receipt of that. Okay, or at least click the box, right? I think that's pretty much it. We're thinking about adding some resource management tool. I don't know if I want to, kind of bring forward the whole T-card rack idea, or maybe do something a little bit different. We're also going to have a document library where people can upload and download additional documents like action plans and that sort of thing. So this is OD Respond. It's been up and running now, publicly available for a couple weeks. We want to make it available to any organization that provides public safety services, to the general public. And if you have questions, love to hear them, see if I can answer them. And if you have suggestions for what we might do to add utility, let me know.
Perfect, George. Great stuff. We'll open it to any questions or comments. Okay. Yeah, and if not, I'll put George's contact info in the notes here, and so you can reach out to him. And George, if you're good, we'll pull the recording down and post it there, and then share that out with our whole group. We've got 65 or so of us that are on the list, planners, and get this out in front of that whole group. So.
Okay, and if you need something maybe less of a context, a loaded thing in the front, there's if you log into the system and you select the help icon, there's maybe a more direct explanation of how it works there.
Oh, perfect. Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll put that link on there, and that way folks will have both.
All right. Initial. Can I ask? Is there any initial feedback about the folks? I don't know, the apparent need you see in the public for this. I hear a lot from folks, certainly before, still after we've developed this thing. But I honestly, I see emergency managers talk a lot about tools, but not finding much time to use them. No. Okay. Well, thanks, Spencer.
Awesome, George. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think one of your hot buttons, right? That's like, ooh, that's cool. Is the off the shelf usefulness of it, right? I think a lot of the systems that, boy, you look at the demo model and you go, wow, that's amazing, and then you get the product or whatnot, and you go, wait, where's all the furniture and all the curtains and all the paint and all the other things? And they go, well, you can customize it. And a lot of, I think, EMs, especially the one deep kind of shops at the local level, just don't have time to do that. And so a system like this, where you can kind of say, hey, quickly, easily, here you go. I think that's a huge missing part of the space. That sure, if you're a monster EM outfit that's got, a quote unquote system administrator for that particular software, sure, this isn't, like they've got that figured out. But I know for the Mountain West, right, you've got a lot of 10-hour-a-week employees who are also the dog catcher and the cemetery director and the fire chief. And having something like this where they can quickly get up to speed fast and utilize it, I think that's a huge win.
Yeah, I think it's gonna take some more work for us to be able, like, as a profession, to explain that to folks. But it was 20 years ago, and it's still probably happening today, where people like me were spending the first 30 minutes of a big incident making phone calls around kind of a big circle, when people could just be invited to a screen in 2 minutes and get updated all at once.
Yeah, No, I think this is huge. And like you said at the beginning, right? Coming at a problem with simplicity as a principal. We don't do that so good in the profession all the time. Sometimes the more bells and whistles we can put on it, the more we do. And at some point, right, we get that diminishing returns point. And I think this straightforward, ease of use. I think you guys have nailed a thing that has been missing. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks again for the time.
Awesome. Absolutely. George, thanks for joining us. We'll go to any other good of the orders from